Once upon a time, in the heart of Valenrose, there was a kingdom where roses grew larger than anywhere else. The air was always thick with the scent of perfume, and every garden was a sea of deep crimson petals. The people believed their land was blessed by magic, for the flowers flourished even in the coldest winters of all. But beneath the palace, hidden by heavy iron doors, lay an ancient thorn altar where dark secrets were kept. Queen Maravelle ruled the kingdom with a cold heart, her beauty as sharp and unnaturally bright as a polished diamond. She was the king's second wife, a woman who never aged and whose skin remained as smooth as white marble. Maravelle's beauty was a lie, sustained only by the rose blood magic she practiced in the shadows of the palace basement. Each night, she offered drops of blood to the ancient thorns to keep her youth from fading into gray dust. The queen believed that beauty was the only true power, and that love was a weakness she could never afford. Beside her lived Princess Elowen, the king's daughter, who possessed a natural grace that required no magic at all. Elowen was kind and curious, spending her days tending to the wild flowers that grew outside the palace stone walls. To the queen's horror, the blood-red roses began to wilt and rot whenever the young princess walked near them. True life rejected the blood magic, and Elowen's pure spirit acted like a poison to the queen's dark, enchanted garden. One evening, Maravelle stood before her mirror of thorns, watching as a single wrinkle appeared upon her pale forehead.
Life bows to blood, but truth bows to none, Queen Maravelle.
Maravelle screamed in rage, realizing that Elowen's natural bloom was slowly destroying the magic that kept her young. The queen decided that Elowen must be dulled, for she could not let a mere girl ruin her eternal reign. She summoned Elowen to the throne room and presented her with a pair of exquisite, perfumed gloves made of silk.
These are a gift for your birthday, my dear.
Hidden inside the silk were tiny, poisoned thorns designed to prick Elowen's skin and drain her youthful vitality away. Elowen put the gloves on with a smile, but her heart was so pure that the thorns refused to sting. The poison turned into harmless nectar, and the gloves bloomed with tiny white daisies that smelled of fresh spring rain. Maravelle watched in silence, her eyes burning with a jealous fire as her own red roses turned black and died. Days later, the queen tried again, handing Elowen a silver rose comb that was enchanted to steal a person's warmth.
Your hair is like silk, child.
The comb tried to freeze Elowen's heart, but the warmth of her kindness was far stronger than the queen's ice. The queen's jealousy grew into a monstrous obsession, and she retreated to her altar to brew a final deadly curse. She took a perfect apple, red as a fresh wound on one side and white as bone on the other. Using a ritual knife, she infused the red side with the concentrated essence of the ancient and hungry thorn altar. Maravelle disguised herself as a grieving, elderly gardener, wearing rags and a hood to hide her unnaturally bright face. She found Elowen in the wild meadows, where the princess was busy helping a small bird with a broken wing.
Please, kind princess, take this fruit as a thank you for your many gentle deeds.
Elowen saw the woman's tired eyes and took the apple out of pure kindness, wanting to please the poor stranger. She took a single bite of the red side, and immediately the world began to spin in a blur of colors. Elowen collapsed onto the grass, her breath slowing until it became as faint as a summer breeze in the trees. The queen cackled and threw off her hood, watching as the princess's skin took on the pallor of cold stone. But Elowen did not rot, for the living magic within her fought back against the queen's dark and heavy blood spell. Crystal rose vines erupted from the earth, weaving around Elowen's body to form a transparent and shimmering garden tomb. The vines grew thick and hard as diamonds, trapping the sleeping princess inside a prison of beautiful, frozen light. Her breath frosted the inside of the glass, a tiny cloud of life that refused to vanish into the air. Maravelle returned to the palace and told the king that his daughter had been taken by a mysterious forest illness. The king wept bitterly, his heart breaking as he watched the queen's roses bloom more wildly and redder than ever. The people mourned for their princess, while the queen's beauty reached a terrifying and blinding new peak of perfection. But the crystal vines began to whisper Elowen's name, their voices carrying on the wind to the ears of travelers. Rowan, a quiet healer with scarred hands and a weary soul, arrived at the gates of Valenrose a month later. Rowan had lost his own sister to blood magic years ago, and he knew the scent of a curse immediately. He followed the whispers to the meadow and found the crystal tomb shimmering beneath the light of the full moon. When he touched the glass, the thorns pricked his fingers, and his own blood flowed down the cold, hard surface.
Blood magic binds life.
He sought out the king, who was sitting alone in a darkened room, haunted by the ghost of his daughter.
Your Majesty, your daughter is not dead, but she is trapped by a lie made of blood.
Rowan explained the price of the healing. He would have to bind his own life to the princess's suffering. The king looked at Rowan's scarred hands and realized that his own silence had allowed the queen's evil to grow. "I will help you," the king declared. They went to the crystal tomb together, while the queen watched from the palace balcony with a look of horror. Rowan took a sharp thorn and cut his palm, pressing the wound against the frozen surface of the crystal glass. "Love must hurt, or it is not real," Rowan cried out, his face contorting with the weight of the princess's pain. The king stepped forward and placed his hand over Rowan's, offering his own strength to help break the heavy curse. A terrible shockwave of energy rippled through the meadow, and the queen felt her stolen youth beginning to slip away. Maravelle screamed as her skin began to wrinkle, and her golden hair turned to the color of dry gray ash. Elowen's eyes fluttered open, and she coughed out a handful of withered rose petals that had been trapping her breath. The poison left her body in a cloud of black smoke, dissolving into nothingness before it could touch the ground. At that moment, the queen's roses across the kingdom withered into piles of gray dust and dry, brittle thorns. Maravelle ran to her altar, but the ancient thorns turned against her, sensing that she no longer had beauty to offer. The vines pulled her down into the darkness of the palace basement, where she was consumed by her own greed. The king rushed to Elowen and held her tight, weeping tears of joy that washed away the last of the curse. The ancient thorn altar crumbled into rubble, and the dark magic was finally purged from the soil of Valenrose. Rowan stood back, his hands newly scarred, but his heart finally at peace after years of searching for justice. The following spring, the rose gardens were burned to the ground to clear away the memory of the blood magic. New flowers began to grow in their place. Simple, wild lilies and sunflowers that needed only water and light. The kingdom was no longer famous for its red roses, but it became known for the kindness of its people. Elowen ruled beside her father, her beauty growing deeper because it was rooted in the truth of her soul. Rowan stayed for a while to teach the people how to heal with herbs and honesty rather than dark enchantments. He eventually moved on to other lands, carrying the scars of his sacrifice as a badge of his true honor. The people of Valenrose never forgot the lesson that beauty built on the pain of others will always rot. They learned that the greatest magic of all is the love that is willing to share another person's burden. And so, the kingdom flourished in peace, and the wild flowers bloomed brighter than the blood roses ever could. The king finally found peace, knowing that his daughter's heart was the true crown of his great kingdom. Elowen lived a long and happy life, surrounded by a world that was simple, real, and truly free. True beauty grows without blood, and love that accepts pain can heal even the deepest of deaths. And they all lived happily ever after.